Hello, students. Welcome to week two of this course, Introduction to System Programming. Here are the learning outcome of this course. At the end of this class, students should be able to explain different types of system programs, including one, assembler, two, compiler, three, interpreter, and should be able to have basic knowledge of operating system, as well as linker and loader. Now, what is an assembler? With this, in our earlier class, we discussed about interpreters, that some certain instructions written in higher level language must be converted to machine language, which is the language that the computer understands. So now, an assembler is a program that converts instructions written in assembly language into machine code. Figure 1 illustrates the pictorial representation of how an assembler works. As you can see, an assembler an assembly language will be passed to the assembler and it gets interpreted where it will produce the machine language representation or program. So as seen, it translates these basic commands and operations from assembly code into binary code recognized by a specific processor. So at this point, one should be able to understand that processors differ from systems, and depending on the computer one uses, similarly that effect has on the assembler, because no two different same computers have the same assembler. So an assembler allows these developers to access, operate, or manage a computer's hardware's architecture and components. What this line simply means is saying that this particular assembler is a set of program that allows the developers to gain entrance into the system, assess its operations, and be able to manipulate or to work on the computer architecture, which is the structure of the entire computer. Component simply means the basic parts of the computer. So this assembler is sometimes refers to as compiler of assembly language because it provides services to an interpreter. Examples include MAMS, which is Microsoft Microassembler, or NAMS, which is Network Assembler. These are some examples of what an assembler is. So it means for any interpretation in assembly of instructions written from high-level language down to machine language, it must pass through a process called translation. And if these instructions are transferred down into assembly language, these mnemonics and symbols of assembly language, which include operators, operands, relational operators, and so on and so forth, must undergo or must pass through an assembler, which is a program that converts this language into machine language or machine language representation. Now, a compiler. We've learned the meaning of, in our previous slide, we've learned the meaning of an assembler. Now, let's now look at what a compiler is. A compiler is a program that converts high-level language into assembly language. Now, if you look at it, students, if you look at it from our previous slide, I said an assembler converts instructions written in high-level language. And this high-level an assembler convert instruction written in assembly language down to machine language. So what compiler does, it converts high-level language into assembly language. So you can see the stages of translation. So it translates this entire program written in high-level language into a machine language assembly code, meaning by the time a compiler is done with its own conversion from high-level language, instructions are already in assembly language or assembly language readable from a machine language. So this compiler helps in the development of software applications by converting user-friendly programs into a low-level language. This is also an extensive explanation. So it works by processing the entire code before execution, resulting in a faster runtime performance. So examples include the Turbo compiler for the C language. We have the virtual machine for Java, and so on and so forth. So if you look at this pictorial presentation, it's just like what we did in the previous slide, that the high-level language passes through the compiler, and this compiler converts this into a low-level language or intermediate representation in machine assembly language. So now, the next thing is for us to look at the interpreter. An interpreter translates high-level language into low-level language similar to a compiler. But unlike a compiler, it processes the entire program at once. So an interpreter reads and executes the entire program line by line. So for compiler, it does all at a time. It does not follow it line by line. But for interpreter, it translates these instructions line by line. So it converts each statement or a single statement into an intermediate code. It executes it immediately and then moves to the next statement in sequence. So if an error occurs, the interpreter stops execution and report the errors, allowing for users debugging. What do you mean by debugging? Debugging just simply means the process of what? Identifying errors or bugs in a code. So what is a bug? It's that error in a code, while debugging is the process of identifying it as well as providing solution or solving that particular problem. We say the examples include the Python interpreter, JavaScript engine. These are examples of interpreter. If you remember from our assembler, we made mention of example. Similarly, for compiler, we made mention of what? Examples. So now let's now look at operating system, which is our next line of discussion. So from your previous classes, you must have known about operating system. But however, it is paramount since we are discussing about system programming. Operating system is also another key component of a computer. So what is an operating system? An operating system is the intermediary software that runs on a computer, which manages memory, processes, software, and hardware of a computer system. So you can now look at as an operating system as a middleman that manages the resources of computer. So some of the functions or major functions of operating system include one, memory management, which deals with the computer's memory, allocating and freeing memory to the particular system request or memory as the need may be. Processor management, it means it manages the CPU, the scheduling of tasks, which tasks or process will be allocated to the processor at any given time. So device management, it controls the hardware devices like printers, disks, input and output devices. Hardware devices, we know. The printer we use for printing, disks for saving or storage of devices. Input and output are the interacting points of computer. Inputs are talking about those devices that bring in or that supply data into the system, such as the mouse, the keyboard. While we talk about the output devices, look at the monitor, which is the screen. We look at the speakers. Another example of input devices is the light pen, joystick, all those things. So another function includes file management. File management is just simply the process of maintaining, organizing, and managing the files within a computer. This management includes these files, directories, providing access or denying access to the user, depending on the rules or condition defined before accessing such files. Another thing is security, which protects against unauthorized access and ensures data integrity. So operating system also provides security by only allowing you access or allow the user access the needed resources at any given time. Any resources that's been restricted or access been restricted, the operating system ensure such resources or files or information are completely protected against unauthorized access. So control over system performance. Yes, the CPU also maintains that. It monitors and optimizes the system efficiency, knowing what to allocate resources to at what time, when, and where. So job accounting, it does that. It just ensures the usage by different processes at any given time. It's just like the analysis of how the CPU is used. It also track how the CPU is being used or the system. Error detection 8, yes, this is the process we discussed about debugging. So this is also another process the operating system works on, detecting, identifying, and resolving errors in the system operation. So it provides user-friendly interface for managing and controlling system resources. Examples of operating system includes Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. So the next thing is to look at the linker and loader. So linker and loader are another component in system programming that are very paramount. So a linker is a system program that combines one or two object files and possibly some library code into an executable or a library. So it integrates program modules and resolves references between them, such as function calls and variable references. So if you look at the diagram, you see that the source programs pass through compiler, and once they pass through compiler, the processes, since the compiler will execute this code by translating them into intermediate representation, it is the responsibility of the linker to link these individual files into a library or a function call so that it can be called elsewhere and be used. In this case, it can be called by the executing program, depending on what is currently processing. So a loader, in other words, is a system. In other words, is a system program that load an executable program into memory for execution. So the responsibility of the loader is to get the processed instructions or programs and load them into the system or computer memory for further execution. So it prepares the program for execution by setting up the memory layout instead, and resolve addresses that the program uses. So the pictorial representation is shown where object program and the secondary storage are passed through the loader, and the loader combine the object files and load them into the main memory for further execution. So this now brings us to the end of class. The next thing is just a quick question to refresh your mind on what we've discussed so far from the beginning. First one is talking about explain the concept of system programming and list and explain any 5 types of system programs you know. And in a tabular form, differentiate between a compiler from an interpreter. So I'll be expecting to see these responses in the comment box. And however, if there are further questions or gray areas, do contact me or by pasting them on the LMS where I can access them, and I will be treating them in our subsequent class. For now,